Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Today I'll bring you a very special watch. You can see in the bottom left corner it should say paid promotion. That's because this watch has been brought to you through the League of Watches. The League of Watches, if you don't know, is a group that I'm a part of, and suppliers like the one that you can see here will often send watches in for review, which then will get shared out to the group and it'll get passed through the common reviewers that you see on YouTube. Now today's watch is the Vario Empire Art Deco watch. This was sent to me. I've had it for a couple of weeks and now I've got a chance to review this beautiful watch. Now it is somewhat different to the usual watches that you see on this channel, so which is good. It's going to help break things up slightly. Now Vario is a relatively young micro brand out of Singapore, and this watch has been designed as an homage to the 1920s Art Deco era. Now, let's be honest, what do I know about the 1920s and what do I know about Art Deco? So I'm not going to talk about the historical comparisons, or nor will I make any inferences to how correct this is to the 1920s or, to the Art Deco movement. What I will do is what I do on all my reviews. I'm going to call it as I see it and speak purely about the watch. Now, Vario on their website have a few color options for this watch. They've also got a few different designs. And Vario also do straps and other accessories, so I will leave a link to their website in the description below. Please be sure to check them out. Now this watch, the price point is £269, which is about $370. Let's get the important things out the way. Let's talk about the specifications and dimensions. The watch has a 316L stainless steel case. It's also got a sapphire crystal and a sapphire display caseback. The watch also runs a 17 joule hand winding mechanical movement, which actually beats at 28,800 beats per hour, which translates into a high beat movement of 8 ticks a second. Now I'm going to pause on that movement. I'm going to talk about it just after this segment, because that movement, we do need to spend some time on it. It is a very exciting and quite a unique movement. You've also got 50 meters of water resistance, because it is a dress watch and that is the usual resistance rating that you get on watches like this. Dimensions, you've got a case diameter of 38 millimeters and you've got a lug to lug of 45.5 mil. You've got a thickness of just 11.3 mil and a lug width of 20 mil. The whole weight of the watch, including the strap that is supplied on, comes to around 60 grams. Now let's pause right there and talk about that magnificent movement used in this watch. The movement used is a Miyota 6T33 movement. It's a 17 joule hand winding mechanical movement with a beat rate of 28,800 vibrations per hour, which means it's a sweep of 8 ticks a second. The power reserve on this movement is 40 hours and it full winds in about 20 rotations, which is quite less compared to, let's just say, the Seiko alternatives. And the rated accuracy is -20 to +40, which is very similar to the NH35. Now the interesting thing about this movement, it's actually discontinued. It was in production from 2009 to 2016. However, Vario did manage to source a few movements and actually had to halt part of the production because this movement had effectively ran out. It wasn't available, but they did manage to get their hands on some more models to continue production. Now, this is a magnificent and a total gem of a movement. I've never seen this movement before, and it just shows you the capabilities of such Japanese manufacturers like Miyota, and Seiko also did one back in the day in one of the Alpinists. Just take a look at that case back, take a look at the movement, look at the signing that you can see, Miyota 17 joules. It just looks like a very pretty movement indeed, and just look how fast that flywheel is beating. Amazing movement, and it is one of the USPs of this watch, no doubt, and one of the best things about this watch as well. So how did this movement actually perform in this watch? I put it on the time grapher across 4 different positions and it averaged at plus 20 seconds a day. Although it could do with a slight bit of regulation, I think that's absolutely spot on, but pay attention to the amplitude and the beat error. Absolutely perfect. What a great movement. Now we've got the technicalities out the way, let's look at that gorgeous dial. First impressions, as soon as you see this watch, words like luxury, glamour, exuberance, elegance start filling your mind. Now this watch has got one of the most classic color options which just shouts absolute vintage class is that green and gilt combination. Now when you start to look closer at the dial, you'll notice the center of the dial is indeed a guilloche dial. Just look at those beautiful geometric patterns, very crisp and clean. Now on top of the green dial, it looks like you've got this brushed disc applied, which seats the polished gilt applied Arabics. You also have the Vario logo underneath the 12 in the same fashion as the Arabics, and around the dial you do have this circle which divides that disc with the chapter markers or the minute markers, which is a mixture of larger dots for the minutes and smaller dots for the seconds. Now this really is one of the most beautiful dials you can look at. It just absolutely mesmerizing. If you look closer at the handset used, you've got skeletonized hands, polished, beautiful, great attention to detail, and you can just see that machining is so crisp. You also got a lollipop style seconds hand, which is a lot more visible than the hour and the minute, and it creates such a nice effect, especially with that high beat sweep of the seconds hand. Believe me when I say you will spend hours staring at this watch, looking at the different finishing that you've got on the dial. Now I guess this is probably what Art Deco is about. It's about the simplicity and just the amount of sophistication that you can see, and the closer you look at it, the better it actually gets. Now I'm going to leave you guys with some really nice b-roll so you can truly appreciate how gorgeous this dial actually looks. Now let's move over to the case. Now the good thing with this watch is that the level of attention to detail and design on the dial, it doesn't stop at the dial, it continues onto the case. So you've got effectively a simple case shape, a round case. Now you've got brushing around the sides and you've got polishing on the A face, on the bezel and the surround. Now just look at the way it's been done. You've got crisp, clear lines between the two transitions, and you've got some of the smoothest brushing that I have ever seen. You've got longitudinal brushing on the side of the case, but that brushing I had to take a closer look to actually see if it was brushed or not. Very, very smooth and high quality brushing. But look how crisp the lines are on that side of the case. You've also got drilled lug tips, which is again a modernization of such an old design, and of course it makes changing straps that much easier. You've also got this really, really nice crown. It is a bit small, but if it was any bigger, I think that would really ruin the aesthetics of the watch. Gorgeous finishing, very simple, but you can definitely see the amount of detail present on the case. Now the dimensions of the case are spot on. I mean, you hear almost everybody talk about this in the comment section, where they want smaller cases, smaller dimensions, and this is just that. You know, I'm a big fan of simple techniques, simple construction, but as long as it's done to a very high quality. And this is clearly the theme with this watch. From the moment you pick it up, from the moment you wear it and you put it down, you can clearly see that the level of detail and finishing is very high. Now the strap supplied is Vario's own, it's genuine leather. You've got some signage on the buckle and you've got this crocodile print leather. I like the contrast stitching, which is like a gilt color almost, and it does taper from 20mm down to 16mm at the buckle. Overall, it is a comfortable strap and again, good quality. Now, usually these types of watches, I find they are quite versatile, so you can put on a range of different colors and different materials of strap, and I think most of them will actually make the watch look really good. Now, on the wrist, this watch looks absolutely magnificent. I've got a 6.5 inch wrist, and it really does look like it was made for me. So, having said that, I don't think I'm going to give it back to the League of Watches. Ban me, do whatever you want. Vario, sue me, doesn't matter. Blacklist me if you will. This watch is so nice looking on the wrist. It's a perfect fit. Obviously, smaller wrist, smaller case size. And you know, under the light, you know, when you're sitting down, you're admiring the watch, just that light bounces off all those really high quality finished surfaces. Now, personally, I think I probably would change the shade of brown I've got on the strap. I like a more waxy, more worn out leather type of look. But that's that dial, you know, I love it. I've got an Alpinist, which has got the similar color combination on the dial, and I absolutely love that. So now it's time to summarize. Well, straight off the bat, the first thing that I do like about this watch is that movement. It's that high beat, such a small, intricate movement. It looks absolutely gorgeous through the case back, and that is one of the biggest pluses for me. Now, it's important that a watch also looks good, and undeniably, I've spoken very highly about this watch. In fact, I've got my Richard or David Attenborough voice on while I've been doing the voiceover, but it does get that feeling out of you, to be honest. You know, when I'm talking about dive watches, you know, I speak a little differently, but when you're talking about something so elegant, so luxurious looking, you know, you gotta speak accordingly, I believe. So this watch, I think it ticks all those boxes. And in terms of criticism, I don't think watches like this deserve negative criticism. I think they're meant to be appreciated for the beauty. Like, for example, that hour hand. On some angles, it is quite illegible. You won't be able to see it, and it could do with being slightly thicker or more visible. But if you did that, you will definitely be losing that aesthetic and that visually appealing look that you get when you look at the dial. You know, they're not always meant to be made to be very functional, as long as, you know, it just looks absolutely gorgeous, which I think this watch does. It's got great finishing on the case, the dimensions, the weight, you know, it serves a totally different purpose. And I really do like the way it actually looks on the wrist. And it is one of the nicer looking watches I have seen. And it's definitely, if I had it in my collection, it would definitely stand out, and I'll wear it on, you know, special occasions. And I definitely think that it is a watch where, even if you're a dive fan, and I expect to see some of my subscribers that I know are hardcore into dive watches or hardcore into pilot watches, that I'll expect to see you comment and saying, yep, I agree, this is a very nice looking watch. So top job to Vario. I think they've done really something special here. Having said that, actually, there is something which I want to point out, and it's down to the movement. Now, because the Miyota movements did use that indirect drive system, a side effect is that the second hand seems to skip. You can see it clearly there, where that smooth sweep becomes a sort of a skipping second hand. Rest assured, that doesn't affect the accuracy. It is a known side effect of this movement, and it's not isolated to the Miyota movements. A lot of the older, higher grade movements also had this side effect. So, I mean, it's not a negative as such, but you will catch it, and you only see it when the watch is face down and the hand is moving towards the gravitational pull. Moving upwards, the sweep returns to normal, and it's not that much of an issue. But just have a look at these beautiful shots. You know, I spent a lot of time just recording these because the watch is just that damn gorgeous and good to look at. Right, that's it, me done for the review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next one.